We're living history. When you put it in the context of what we've gone through the last 9-10 weeks, there's been no other time in modern history where this kind of catalytic shift is taking place. Our history will be defined by what we do.
You're watching Quarantine Catch-Ups, only on CorkScrewedTV. Walter, how are you?
Doing great, Ralph. This is great to be here. Obviously, it's challenging times, but I got to say that just based on how the community has responded to this current crisis, I couldn't ask for a better community to really embrace the situation in front of us, but with courage and that fortitude. So it's fantastic.
I have to say, I'm pretty proud of being based in St. Catharines. I mean, being a resident, operating the business here, showcasing our show around the St. Catharines and Niagara region, and now faced with this, I've been texting with Brian York a little bit here and there, just, telling him to keep a stick on the ice, because I know you guys have it's a big job, and you've got to make a lot of tough decisions, and not everybody's going to like those decisions, but you've got to think about everybody. So how are you coping?
Well, really, there is no playbook for this. And so, whether it's the economy or whether it's the health of our community, they're all intertwined. And so really, Ralph, it's looking at how are we protecting our community. And so our frontline workers, the healthcare workers, the essential service workers, those who are older adults who have the COVID-19 has a very dangerous impact on their overall health, including, and it's not just the older adults, but it's making sure the overall health of our community is being protected. So it's there, like I say, there is no playbook, but I think people are just responding in such a responsible way. I've always said that we're all the front lines on this, that there's the last line of defense is the healthcare system. The front line of defense is us. If we do our job as people in our community, we will keep our community safe, and then the recovery will be much quicker.
Well, I think it's interesting you use the word playbook. There's no playbook for this, because everyone I talked to was just blindsided by this. I mean, we were chugging along, making plans for the summer, naively. We're going to be shooting here, there, talking to this person and then that organization. And then in the space of a week and a half, I mean, Jess and I had plans to go on vacation, and we were like, nah, we're going to go. We're going to go. And in the space of a week and a half, it went from we're crazy to think that we're going to go on this vacation. And what is even happening? Pat, what are we going to do? CorkScrewed as an organization, we're not filming. We're not filming anytime soon. From your perspective, you've got this city, you've got business owners, you've got residents, you've got people in need, you've got charity organizations like Betty Lou Suter, and you've got guys like Al DeGenis, with very different contrasting needs. I got to say, I don't envy your position, but I'm very grateful that you're at the reins.
No, I appreciate that, Ralph. There's a lot of good people who are really pushing to make the right decisions, and like you pointed out, from social agencies to businesses, this is all. It's almost like this is called the Great Economic Pause, and it's a reset of the economy due to a pandemic. And so, how do we manage ourselves through this? And so it is. We're in the sort of the early phase of the next sort of iteration of what our community is going to look like. We're in the early phases. We're going to need everybody to be a part of this move forward. So from the business community, the business leaders and how they're going to retool and redesign their business, the social agencies, there's an opportunity for them to also look at how they do their interactions with their clients and maybe think of different ways to do it. And so from a community perspective, we've never shut down before. So in 1918 was the last time when Spanish flu was here. That would be the only other period of time where the city would have come to almost a grinding halt. So we've come to a grinding halt in 2020. And what does that look like moving forward? So, until there's a vaccine, we're really going to be in this emerging new normal. What does that look like? No one really has an idea, but if we do it together, and if we do it with the firm understanding of why we're doing it, with the best information moving forward, I think we'll come out of this stronger and better designed to meet challenges like this or any other challenge in the future.
I would agree. I mean, from my perspective, my observations have been, an enhanced sense of community or connectedness. Even
Yeah.
There's an interesting juxtaposition. We're all forced to self-isolate, and we're doing Zoom calls like this for everything. Yet, I've never been more aware of my neighbor's business, my neighbor's organization, the guy down the road, or friends that are impacted in different ways. Some businesses are just crippled. Other businesses are finding ways to thrive, and there's a whole lot of real estate in between. And it's interesting. I've been talking to a lot of people like Doug Whitty from 13th Street. The if you want to call it a silver lining, it's almost like we've got this new appreciation for what we have right here. And when things go back to normal.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where, I had an opportunity to talk to Doug just as this was sort of happening. It was the early iterations of this shutdown for our community and our economy. And he made the same point where let's take the best of this situation, and there's a considerable amount of challenges that are in front of us, and I completely understand that. But let's take also the best parts of this. The understanding that local economy is really the foundation of our economy. The ability to support the businesses that are truly local, from wineries to farmers to retailers to food producers, you name it, to breweries, any of those businesses that maybe we gave a passing glance to previously. We go to the restaurant. I don't do this. I always order VQA when I go to the restaurant. But when people would go to the restaurants and they would look at it and get a passing glance to a VQA or a craft beer, and they would go for their, tired and true California or Australian. It's times like this where I'm hoping that one of the outcomes is going to be this renewed sense of identity, of local identity, of appreciation for what surrounds us, and make a more concerted effort to support and sustain those type of businesses. If we could do that, then that is one of the sort of bright spots of a very challenging time that we're in.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying to everybody, it doesn't matter what street you look at. I mean, everybody works somewhere, does something, and if you think about that when you're making purchase decisions, how I gotta buy wine. I got Paul, I got Jeff, I got Doug, I got Ed, I got all these people around me that are connected to me. Let's do something. Let's make a purchase decision that affects them. With respect to the city, if people have questions, what are you telling people to do with respect to access? Are you inviting people to go to the website? Like, what's the best portal to get answers or to stay informed?
Great, and that's a great question. I think communication is the key as we continue to move through this. So all the information that we have related to city activities is on our website. So that is the sort of platform or ground zero for all the information related to the city. If you have questions, the best place to start is Citizens First. So Citizens First at stcatharines.ca. You send whatever your question is, and our team will look at it and make sure you get the appropriate answer coming back. Also, our social media channels, from Instagram to Twitter to Facebook for the City of St. Catharines, they're constantly being updated with information related to city activities. If you're looking for more of the medical public health side of COVID-19, the region's public health and the region's website is the go-to place for all things related to the medical side, the public health side of COVID-19. And as we come out of this period, as we start to ease the restrictions and we start to follow the government, the provincial government's directives, that information will be placed in those areas where you could have the confidence you're getting the information from the right source. So that's how we're communicating, but it's a multi-channel universe. So we got to make sure we're using all of our channels, including a channel like this.
because
Right.
there is a lot of conflicting information, and it's nice to be able to know that you're getting the right, information feed.
Well, and that's going to be key moving forward, because when you look at the summer of 2020, and this will be a very unique summer for the city of St. Catharines and our community in general, it's going to be a summer where you're not going to experience the Facer Festival. You're not going to experience the Rib Festival that we've come to know and love. You're not going to experience In the Soil that you've come to know and love. These are festivals that occur in the summer, and it's a part of our DNA. It's really, it makes us who we are from a cultural perspective. Those events aren't taking place, and so in not taking place in their current formats, it's going to create some space, I'll call it. And in that space, what is the summer of 2020 going to look like? And so, as you said, organizations are looking for information. People are looking for information. All we can say is that the fluidity of information coming out is going to be done in the best interest of the public, to protect them, and also to allow the certainty of things like businesses, so that they can start to regain that economic momentum that's going to be required as we come out of this.
Yeah. And to be clear, the city is, we're operating as best as we can, but you do have a task force in place that is on the daily monitoring things and making decisions as required, correct?
Yeah, we have our EOC, so our emergency command, our emergency operations center, EOC, is still in operation. They were formed when we declared an emergency. They're still that operating body that looks at how is the city operating in the current crisis. And then our economic development team is working on the recovery plan. We also have a recovery team within the city of St. Catharines that's looking after the operations and how that's going to start to work through to recovery. So we've got these different platforms, and then at a certain point, it's engaging with the businesses and the social agencies about recovery. The time's not now for that step, and I say that because the businesses they're focused on their own recovery. Now, I was a small business owner for 8 years. You tap me on the shoulder and say, "Hey, I want to be a part of a big task force on recovery." You think that person's going to have time as they're trying to rebuild their own business now? They're not going to have time. Don't put the burden on them. Allow us to do our work around the framing of what the recovery is going to look like. And then as businesses are starting to retool and get set and have the confidence that they're coming back, then you reach out to them as well and say, okay, what does recovery look like for you for the next 3, 6, 9, 18 months? And then how does the city help you in that process? So I'm just giving the viewers some long-term, how many steps we're going to be going through as we go through this recovery phase.
Well, it's good to know, because there is, if one thing is consistent across the board, it's uncertainty. People don't know, and it's hard to do anything when you've got that uncertainty. And if you're fighting it every day, it can make for some serious, even mental health issues.
Yep. The anxiety, all that stuff. I'm telling you, Ralph, from our point of view, the social implications are just as important, if not more important, than the economic. They go hand in hand, but the social issues facing us around COVID-19 are going to magnify themselves moving forward. So that recovery is not just an economic recovery. It's going to be a social recovery as well.
Well, I just wanted people to know that I hear it straight from the horse's mouth. Sorry to call you a horse, but
no, the one's coming up behind me soon.
Yeah, I appreciate you putting yourself in an appropriate setting for a CorkScrewed.
Oh, yeah. Social isolation. This is for me. This is it's hot. I don't know where you are right now, but it's hot in this vineyard. It's really hot. You can see how much growth we have going on. This is it's a microclimate.
Yeah, it is. Because I think everyone was scared about a frost last night, except for
not me. Not me. No, I'm good.
Going back to my point, it's good to know that there is a finger on the pulse. There's many fingers on the pulse. And while there is uncertainty, we are in this together, and there are channels to get information and to give information. If people have concerns, they can direct it that way through the channels. So if you can pass along collectively our salutations to the crew. I know, like I said, I talked to Brian, but I know there's a lot of people there that are making some tough decisions. Some of them can be frustrating, but they're for the greater good. So we appreciate that. And you might people don't tend to call in and say, "Hey, you're doing a great job." People usually call in and say, "What the?" So
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
what you're doing, highlighting the wineries and the businesses in the community is making a difference. I've had an opportunity to talk to a lot of different folks, business folks, residents, members in the community, and it's the ingenuity of what you're doing, creating the content that fills in the void of that unknown, or what can I do? How do I make a difference? And CorkScrewed TV is the leadership that you show now will translate into greater things in the future. I can guarantee you that.
Well, I got to be honest with you, Pat and I tried to come up with a vaccine. We failed miserably, and so we thought we'd stick with the skill set that we have and the infrastructure that we have, and all we want to do is the same as always: shine a light on what we have here, and get people to just have a place to find out what restaurants, what wineries. Right. We've talked to Betty Lou, and we plan on talking to quite a few more people what they're doing right now, and how to access services, goods, and just how other people are coping. Because like you said before, anxiety is a thing. And if you're sitting at home thinking that you're the only one, kind of going a little bit crazy because of all this uncertainty and, financial and otherwise, we're all in this together. And if you have need, you've got neighbors, and we live in a great community. We really do. So I am super proud of the leadership that you guys have shown. We haven't had a big panic. Things have seemed to be pretty organized, and just my neighbors and I've had to run out to places like Home Depot or whatever for necessities. People are abiding by the restrictions. I haven't seen any fights. I've seen people, wearing masks and standing 6 feet apart. And who would have thought it? If you told people in February this was going to be the reality, they tell you you're crazy. But we're all doing it. So
that's amazing. It's we're going to look back. I say this, and I'll end with this: we're living history. So when you put it in the context of what we've gone through the last 9-10 weeks, there's been no other time in modern history where this kind of catalytic shift is taking place, and we're living history. So our history will be defined by what we do. We are now defining how history will judge us. And I think they will look back, and they will look at our community, and they will say, that was a community that did the right things.
Well, so far so good. I will say this: the last time this happened, 1919, it gave us community care, and it's got a lot of great organizations, social organizations in this region. Community care is, of course, one of them, and it is interesting to note that it was that Spanish flu pandemic that kind of gave birth to community care. So that was a defining product, and we'll have to see what this does. But it's
what followed the Spanish flu? What followed the 1919 Roaring 20s? And so when you look at that context and the psychological impact of the Spanish flu and what it did to people, is when the Spanish flu was eradicated, it created this new energy that it just led to such an exuberance for life, for community, for being with one another. So what I'm hoping, and this is sort of, I'm letting you in on some of my thinking, is my hoping is that as we work our way through this, it'll usher in that new sense of identity, that sense of celebration of life, and celebration of our community and culture. And I'm hoping that we're heading into the Roaring 20s again.
Well put, and I couldn't agree more. So we'll leave it with that. Great to talk to you.
Thank you.
Inspirational end there, and give my best to everyone on the team at City Hall there. And we will talk to you soon. Cheers,
Thanks.
Walter. And
Cheers.
oh, by the way, nice haircut.
It's horrible. It's horrible.
It's good. You're looking good. See ya.